problem isn't too big, your commitment is too small. So many people think they have a unique set of circumstances. I've said this before. You do not. You do not have a unique set of circumstances. All right? You are just as capable as everyone else to get the things that you want. You don't have to accept what you currently have. You've just not been committed enough to change it. My name is Brian Pannuzzo. I help successful professionals build an elite body and mind without sacrificing work or time with family. I know your life because I lived it for 20 years, and man, if I can do it, so can you. Welcome back to the show. This is the Success Lift Podcast, and I'm your host, Brian. And today, at the time of this recording dropping, December 8th, 19, holy moly, I was just about to tell you the year I was born, 1977. It is 2025, and that makes me 48 years old today. I wanted to use this week as an opportunity to share some thoughts with you. I am incredibly grateful that I am in this position in my life. Man, what a ride it has been over the course of the last 10 years or so for me. We're now approaching 11 years in January of 2015, where I had a moment where I always sort of say I proverbially got punched in the face and was forced to make a lot of changes in my life, but not many of them started right away. As looking back now, almost 11 years later, just a few started. A few very important ones started. And I was able to build on that momentum that I created over a course of a number of years, quite frankly. And change for me would happen in these 1, 2, 3 year sort of buckets at a time. And I would have 1 or 2 or 3 years in a row where I just sort of stayed in neutral, in maintenance, I guess, as you would call it, in the nutrition coaching world. And I wanted to think back a little bit and give you some of my lessons, not necessarily from the last 11 years, but just some stuff that I think that you can take away from this podcast that will be, number one, a little meta, a little like 30,000 foot view, a little inspirational, I hope. But ultimately, like, we change down in the dirt. We change in the weeds. We change in the day-to-day grind. We got to get in to the game on the court and play the game. And if we don't do that, we don't make changes. And so my hope for this episode is to share a few things that I've been thinking about, not only recently, but sort of principles I've lived my life by over the last, certainly the last 5+ years, but maybe even longer. And some of these things you might be like, that's like airy-fairy, and others I hope will be very relatable to you. But my goal for you is to just take something from this. And if you're listening to this in the second week of December, which it is this week, we still got time. We still got time until the end of the year. And you can make some unbelievable progress between now and December 31st. But more importantly, get your mind right and start to understand that this is a forever game that I'm certainly playing in my head, but also at the same time knowing that there's urgency to take action today. And I think that's the beautiful balance that you have to create in your life. And when you start to see some incredible results is when you're able to zoom out far enough to know that there is just endless amounts of quarters, periods, halves, whatever your game of choice, innings, if we're going to talk baseball, to play. But the most important one is right now. And when you can have that duality, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, when you can have both of those perspectives, I've talked about microscope and telescopes in terms of being able to zoom all the way out and all the way in, and that skill that you develop of going back and forth is where you make your money, as we would say back in the day. And so I'm going to just sort of ramble off a few of these. Some are will flow into others, and some are just sort of standalone and just some thoughts that I had. I'll try to keep it pretty concise. I hate when people do like 48 lessons on my 48th birthday. I'm not going to give you 48 because that would just be making shit up in order to hit a number. I just basically covered a piece of paper, and I wrote in big font, so don't worry, this won't be that long. And I thought some of this could be helpful for you. The first thing that I wrote down, because it's something that I've realized definitely over the last 5 years, but as I look back, not knowing over the last 11 years, is you don't get your goals, you get your standards in life. And I think too many people, especially, and I started with this one specifically because we're entering a season of goal setting. We're entering a season of where people just, the calendar turns over, and just like we had Black Friday and Cyber Monday, time a week ago, we've all been conditioned to do certain things. Human beings are fascinating. We get conditioned to do certain things, right? We get conditioned over the weekend, over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, to spend a bunch of money, a lot of times on shit we don't really need. And then we're now conditioned over the next several weeks to sort of let it go and eat like shit and drink a little too much. And there's many of the moments that will be warranted to do that. But it's like we just sort of have this like, fuck it, it's the holidays type of, attitude. And while that's true, it is the holidays. I mean, really, like, it's the holidays on Tuesday afternoon, so we operate in these conditions and sometimes don't take enough time to zoom out a bit. Now we're going to head into the ultimate goal setting season of the year, every year. And people are going to write stuff down. They're going to say they're going to do things, but what they don't do is they don't reverse engineer the step-by-step directions that they need to take. And that's one thing that I tell clients all the time. I've talked about this a lot on the podcast and in my content. You need to have destinations in the GPS in order to know where you're going, which then help you derive the turn-by-turn directions. Those turn-by-turn directions, you can think of those as your standards. And so when you're driving cross-country, it is a standard for you. If you're heading from Los Angeles back to New York, it's a standard to go east. Like, you have to go east. Now, you could go northeast, you could go southeast, you could drive straight north for a little while, you could drive straight south. But in general, you need to go more east than west. Everyone can take that in and understand it pretty easily, I would hope, okay? The turn-by-turns that we execute on a daily basis are our standards. And whether you know it or not, you have standards in your life. They might just be total bags of hot, flaming, you know what. Or they may be so unreliable that you flip them on and off without realizing it, and then you get to what you got, which is probably not your goals. And so that's one reason why I see so many people not achieve the things that they say that they want, because they don't align their actions, AKA their standards, what you're willing to tolerate, as part of the process. And so you could have a goal of looking a certain way, but it would be much more effective for you to have a certain standard for what you're willing to accept. I'm not willing to accept certain things in my life when it comes to my physical body anymore. Now, that is definitely has to do with aesthetics, how I look, but most importantly, it starts with my overall health, how I feel. I am unwilling, because I spent 15 years in this state, I'm unwilling to have constant low energy. I'm unwilling to be in physical pain on a regular basis. Don't get me wrong, I'm 48 years old, I push my body, I stay in great shape, I'm constantly pushing the envelope. I get injured, I get nicked up, I have bumps and bruises, I have little things that pop up here and there just like you. And I work on those to constantly improve them so that they don't continue to happen, but they happen. I'm talking about the standard that I was willing to accept for over a decade, waking up and being in pain every single moment of the day effectively. Limping when I got up out of the chair, putting bags of ice on my knees after I played golf, having back pain constantly. Like, these are things that I was just willing to accept as a standard without knowing it. And then I would always say I have a goal of I got to lose 10 pounds, instead of focusing on the standard that I was living with every single day. And so if you want to achieve some of the things that you are starting to think about for 2026, I would highly encourage you to develop standards. What are you willing to accept in your life? How are you willing to feel when you look in the mirror? What are you willing to accept in your marriage? What are you willing to accept as a minimum standard for maybe how often you see your friends? Because our social relationships often take a huge toll as busy professionals. We work all the time. We have to travel for work. We have to go out for work. We have to do all these things for work. We're constantly giving back to our family as much as we can. And then we look up and we're like, geez, I haven't seen some of my, 20, 30 plus year old friendships for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. It's been a year since I've seen this person. Yeah, we text every once in a while. So it's like, what is your standard for that relationship? And when you start to boil it down, that might mean quarterly meetup with your friends. Guess who gets to be the leader of that? You. Guess who gets to take all the credit when your friends get together and go, this was amazing, we need to do this more often? Brian, thanks for setting this up. You. So have more standards in your life, less goals. They ultimately will get you to the goals that you have. But focus on the standards, not the goals, okay? Where you are currently, lesson number 2, thought number 2, where you are currently, your current results. My current results are a reflection of my previous standards. Now that might sound very obvious when I speak it out, but oftentimes when we're living in the moment, zoomed all the way in microscopically, it's hard for us to accept that we are where we are today because of our last 2, 3, 6, 12 months. And you can't do anything to change that except what you do today, what you're willing to accept as a standard today. And then tomorrow is another today. So it's a series of todays over and over and over again. But where you'll go, what you'll achieve is based off of the current reflection of where you've been, meaning what you've been willing to tolerate. So if you've been willing to tolerate certain things in your life, you're going to see that fruit come to harvest 6 months from now, 3 months from now, 12 months from now, depending on what it is and how intense you are with it. All right, so your current results are a reflection of your previous standards. That might frustrate you. It frustrates me a lot, but also it should give you some hope. Because if you change your standards, as I said in point number 1, thought number 1, you're going to get a new set of outcomes. Your standards will drive your outcomes. So as you start to think through the end of this year in December for 2026, start to think about what are you willing to tolerate in your life. I am not willing to tolerate being able to grab areas of my body and pull chunks of skin off of my frame. I'm not willing to accept that anymore. For decades, I was. I'm not willing to accept walking around with aches and pains all the time. For years, I was. I'm not willing to get out of the shower and look at my body and go, fuck me. Don't get me wrong. I'm very critical of myself. I still look at myself and want to change certain things. That is human nature. We are going to be our own harshest critics. That's okay, up to a point, in my opinion. But I'm unwilling to look at myself and go, wow, major changes need to happen. That is a standard that I have set for myself, and I'm unwilling to drop below it. And when I do begin to creep below the line for a period of time, it's very obvious to me. And I have bells and whistles that go off that tell me that I need to raise the bar, raise my standard. Talked about this a lot. If you want to achieve better results in your life, think about raising the ground floor, raise the basement. All right, don't raise the roof, raise the floor. Let's shift structurally this entire thing up another couple levels. Thought number 3, the problem isn't too big. Your commitment is too small. The problem isn't too big. Your commitment is too small. So many people think they have a unique set of circumstances. I've said this before. You do not. You do not have a unique set of circumstances. All right? You are just as capable as everyone else to get the things that you want. You don't have to accept what you currently have. You've just not been committed enough to change it. And so you've exhibited your ability to be committed in other areas of your life. If you're still with the same spouse, you've exhibited the ability to stay married. If your kids still live in the house and haven't moved out because you're a dick or whatever, you've exhibited the ability to be a good parent. If you still have a great job, if you've created wealth, if you're succeeding professionally, you've exhibited the ability and the commitment to show up to work every day and do what you've had to do. And that's where this analogy and this example, I think, is the most easily understood. I mean, you don't want to go to work every day. You don't love your job that much. You're committed to it. You're committed to your career. You're committed to providing for your family. You're committed to building wealth. That commitment is greater than the problem of getting up and going to work when you don't want to, of the problem of traffic on your commute, of the problem of having to go out a couple nights a week with clients, the problem of having to travel for work. Your commitment's greater than that. So if there's another area of your life that you don't have the results that you want, it is not the problem. The problem is not too big. Your commitment to solving that problem is too small. Next thought, be weird or be average. There is so much mediocrity in our society today. It has never been easier for you to be extraordinary. Okay? Extraordinary. The word extra is in the word extraordinary. It's going to take you doing a little bit more than other people are willing to do in order for you to stand out. Just going back to my work analogy, okay? You've been willing to show up and commit yourself to a career, maybe more so than others. I don't know what the average income in this world is, in this country is, but it's probably $50,000. Now, I'm not saying what you do is way more important, making $1 million a year, than someone who makes $50,000. But I know that you've been willing to put more time into that career. I know that you don't just work 9 to 5. The average person works 9 to 5. They take a 1-hour lunch break. They maximize their PTO, which is a new phrase apparently in corporate America. I don't even know how much vacation time I was allowed to take. And I'm sure many of you who are listening to this don't know either. We never maxed out our vacation days. We never looked at the calendar in November and December and saw that we still had 8 personal days off and decided to take them. Your ass would get fired for that. I remember when I was early in my career asking my boss about vacation days, and he just looked at me straight in the face. He said, "Don't ever ask me about vacation days again." And it didn't mean that I couldn't take one. He just simply meant, if you need a day, take a day. It should be a good reason. If you need some time off, take some time off. It should be a good reason. But don't ever ask me about how many days you have. That's not what we do here. And so I know that you have experienced the same thing if you're my type of avatar. You don't know how many vacation days you get a year. That's a fake thing in many of our worlds. Many people who make average income have never worked a weekend before. You have worked many. Many people who make average income have never stayed past 5 p.m. You stay past 5 p.m. regularly. So why are you so concerned with looking like everybody else when average disgusts you in certain areas? Average income disgusts you. 50% of marriages end up in divorce. 75% of the country is fucking obese or overweight. What are you so enamored with being average for? Why? What is so attractive about being average in certain areas of your life? It's unacceptable for you to be average in some areas, like your bank account. Why do you accept mediocrity and being average in others? In order to not be average, you simply have to do some things that others aren't willing to do. Now, the good news is that it's not that hard. The bad news is that you're going to look, and I'm going to throw the air quotes up here, you're going to look weird for a little while. You're going to look weird. You're going to do things that people are unwilling to do, don't think about doing, like walking all over a baseball field during your kids' games, like eating a little bit differently than others, like taking a walk in the middle of the day for 10 or 15 minutes, like going to bed a little bit earlier, like maybe not having that last final drink at 10 p.m. when you told yourself the last drink was at 9. For you to get extraordinary, extraordinary results, you just have to do extra. That's a fact. You've done it in other areas. Remember, it's not the problem, it's your commitment. Your commitment in other areas to be extraordinary has been there. It just has not been there, is not there in others. And if you want more in those areas of your life, you need to do something about it. Next point, next lesson. This all or nothing mentality that you tell yourself you have, especially right now when it's so easy to be nothing and not all. It's a bullshit excuse to do nothing when it's hard. Your all or nothing mentality is a bullshit excuse to do nothing when it's hard. When is life ever going to set up perfectly for you to have the runway that you need to do the things that you think you need to do? I know the answer to that. You know the answer to that. We actually are probably entering a week or so soon that it does set up, maybe right before the holidays. But right now, it's completely 180 the opposite. And so by you saying that you can't do anything because you're all or nothing, you have an all or nothing mentality. It is the most ridiculous bullshit excuse that you can say. All right? It's just an excuse for you to do nothing when it's hard. Next point, next lesson. If we turn down the volume, what would the video say? If we just turned the volume of your life off and put a camera on you and followed you around all day, cataloging, auditing what you did every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, what would the video say? Would the video say that you don't have time? Would the video say that it's too stressful? Would the video say that there's just like nothing you can do? Or would the video show that you have plenty of time? Would the video show that you do make poor choices? Would the video show that there is excess capacity in your life to get the things that you want? Surveillance cameras in our lives are some of the most powerful things that we can have. Now, obviously, that's a silly circumstance to set up, but if you ever really want to know, just audit what you're doing every 5, 10, 15 minutes of the day. And then take a look at that over the course of a couple days. Promise you'll find tons and tons and tons of time. All right? Next thought. I don't even know what number we're on. We're going to get a little meta on this one. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. This one's going to be a little bit hard for my tough guys. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. You are absolutely 100% struggling with something right now. I can say that with 100% confidence because I am. I can say that with 100% confidence because the 55 other men that I'm working with currently are as well. I can say that with 100% confidence because the hundreds of people that I've worked with and the thousands and thousands and thousands that I've spoken to over the last 6+ years of this journey that I've been on in my life in terms of coaching other people have had the same issue. Every single person is struggling with something right now. It gets easier to deal with when you, number one, admit it, and you, number two, share it with someone, ask for some help, and ask for accountability. If you can bring yourself to do those things, I promise you, whatever you're struggling with will immediately get better. It may not go away, but it'll immediately get better. Because most of the time, the biggest issue is that we are dealing with it inside alone by ourselves. And as soon as we share it with somebody else, we bring a human perspective in and they can share their experience with you. They can tell you that they used to deal with the same thing, or they knew somebody that had this, or did that, or dealt with this, and had that experience, and here's how they managed it. And once you realize that you're not alone, it becomes a little bit more normal. And then you can start to deal with the things that you need to deal with. Set the standards that you need to set in order to achieve whatever it is that you want. But too often, and I'm raising my hand here, men, especially the type of people that I work with, we ball things up inside and we decide to take it on ourselves. And 100 times out of 100, that is the worst idea that we can do, that we can have. So if you're struggling with something, please find someone, a therapist, an accountability program, a family member, a friend, a coach, to share it with so that they can help you work through it. And sometimes that help is just listening and just saying, damn, that's a lot. Okay, I got you. Let me know what I can do to help you. What can I do to support you? I must say that 10 times a week to clients. What can I do to support you? Sometimes it's just calls like this are enough. Being able to have a place to talk about the shit that's going on in my life that has the chain reaction events that cause me to not do some of these boring basic things. And so you know better most of the time. Human beings know what not to do. I'm convinced after now working with so many people that you don't actually know what to do to get the most effective, optimized results in the shortest period of time. But I do know that you know what not to do. And I've found that the reason why people continue to do some of these things is not because they have this moment where they go, cheeseburger or grilled chicken, couch or gym, snooze button or wake up and we take a walk. You don't rationalize in the moment that the bed is better or that the couch is better or that the cheeseburger is better. Of course, all of those things are better. I'm a human being too. But you don't do the relative value comp in that moment. You're struggling with something that you haven't shared or have gotten support or have found a way to deal with. And that is the reflection, the manifestation of those deeper issues. And so if you find yourself doing things you know you shouldn't be doing, I would try to chain link it back to some of these issues. And if you can start to talk to somebody about it, it'll certainly help. It may not solve the problem, but it will certainly help. Next thought, at 48 years old, having gotten myself into exceptional shape, having done a ton of work on my mindset and changed my limiting beliefs and my very narrow-minded thinking. The rent for those extraordinary results that we talked about, the rent for those extraordinary results is due on a daily basis. Now, this is a little motivational locker room coach type of quote and comment, but it's true. The rent's due. Had a good day today? Awesome. Rent's due tomorrow. Have been on a heater and you're really kicking ass over the last several months? Perfect. Rent is due tomorrow. Struggling? Haven't been executing? Cool. Rent's due tomorrow. You can do whatever you can do today. Tomorrow you got to get up and do the same thing. Now that might sound like you're climbing up a never-ending hill, or you can change your frame on it and just know that this is what life is for you for the rest of your life. Waking up and executing. It doesn't mean that you have to run a marathon every day. It just means that there are certain things that are standards for you in your life, and when you execute them, you start to develop evidence that becomes undeniable. I talk about evidence a lot. Too many people are waiting for motivation. Too many people are waiting for this magical strike of lightning to hit them, where it's like all of a sudden they're going to not want to do all this stuff that they used to do. Keep waiting. It's never happening. You need to build a body of evidence that is undeniable that if you don't do this stuff, if you don't get up and stay in bed, if you don't get off the couch and go to the gym, if you don't eat the grilled chicken instead of the cheeseburger, you're fucking nuts, because you have so much evidence to support that doing those things creates an undeniable set of results. When you do that, the decisions become very easy. You can actually watch people self-destruct right in front of you. A classic example is like, I could think back to, my time in the office when donuts would show up, cookies would show up, dessert would show up, the holiday popcorn tin that's been going around the office for the last week, and they'll show up a couple more times. And how the seagulls, they flock to this stuff at 9:45 in the morning on a Tuesday. I'll have a donut. I had breakfast already, but it's donuts. Donuts don't show up that often, except like once a week. So when you're not clear about what it is that you want, you start to make these random choices. But I have so much evidence to support that when I don't do those things, and when I do other things, that I get exceptional results. And so I'm willing to continue that loop, that feedback loop, but you don't get into it enough to produce enough evidence. And so, there's going to be a time when you are building that evidence that you're like, well, shit, I don't know if this is working, and I really want to go do the other thing, but I got to put my head down and I got to do it anyway. Rent's due. And that's the mentality you can have. I don't need to tell myself that the rent's due anymore, because all I have to do is just look at what I've created in certain areas. In other areas I do. So this, I might be speaking very confidently from the perspective of my physical results, right? I know I got to move my body. I know I got to get to the gym. I know I got to work on my cardio. I know I got to eat the right foods for me, customized for me, calories and macros, because my results are undeniable. But maybe in other areas, like maybe in my business, I'm still kind of in a hyper growth phase of this new, phase of my life, this new mountain I'm climbing. And I got to push myself to do more things, because I've yet to produce the evidence on a long-term basis that, I have something that's as undeniable as maybe my physical body's results. So just know, you got to figure out where you are in this continuum, right? Along this timeline. Next thought, you would be shocked where your life could be in 3 years if you just decided to commit. And this is a more recent and personal one for me, and I'll tie into my last thought, because I was in pretty good shape at 45 in 2000 and I guess the beginning of 2023. And I decided that I wanted to see what I was capable of, and I wanted a little bit more out of my life. And so I did what everyone should do. I found a great program and great coaches to push me, who knew what they were doing. And that journey still has not stopped. I'm in a different coaching program with different coaches now. But 3 years later, I could look at myself physically and I could show you side by sides. It's ridiculous how different it is. And that's because I made a decision to take a longer term approach. I'm just like you. I used to judge my results in 3-month blocks of time. 3 months. Where can I get to in 3 months? What can I get the scale down to in 3 months? If I could just lose 12 pounds in 3 months, if I could just put on a bunch of muscle in 3 months, instead of taking a 3-year approach. I think one of the reasons clients stay with me for so long is because I'm very honest with them about, what game we're playing. And not everyone stays with me for 3 years. I mean, that's probably not even close. Most clients stay with me about 1.5 years or so. But I have clients who are now with me for over 3 years because they've bought into this game we're playing. We're playing an infinite game. And to make historic structural changes in your life, it's going to take years. I don't really know what the hell you're wondering or thinking why it wouldn't. Think about where you're at in your career today at 45, 50, 42 years old, whatever, 55 years old. Could you have what you have right now at 28? It's not possible. You were in a good spot at 28. You were in a hyper growth mode in 28. You probably knew who to follow. You had great mentors. You were grinding. You were busting your ass. But like your 42-year-old boss when you were 28 probably would have just told you to go back out to the desk and put your goddamn head down and work for another 10 years before you picked it back up again at 38 to see where you are at. And that's the same approach for any area of your life outside of the office. I was trying to, save my marriage and improve my marriage in 3 months, but it took me 10 years to chip away negatively at it, where it got to the point where it was almost a divorce. In 3 months, my wife was like laughing at me. Like, what do you mean? Like, are we good? Are you nuts? We're not good. Like, I appreciate all the things you're doing, but we're not good. We're better than on the brink, but the bar was pretty low, dude. If you're 50 pounds overweight, you could lose 25 to 30 in 3 months. You could. That's aggressive, but you could. But like, are you there? No. And I would argue even when you lose the 50, you're not there. Because then you probably should be thinking about changing your body composition and building more lean muscle and looking completely different at the weight that you thought was going to be the weight that you cared. Most likely it's not. So you just took a long-term approach, you would start to realize that you're going to be doing this forever no matter what. Whatever this is for you. Why not just know that this is something that you're not going to give up? When you do, ironically, the results come. And they often come a lot faster than you've been getting them, because if you're honest, you haven't even been getting them. Or you get them for 3 months, and then you don't have them for 9. And you live the same cycle over and over again. And then you do the same thing. Because that worked. Well, did it? I don't know. It didn't work. You got to do it again. If you're doing it again, by definition, it didn't work. So take a longer term approach. Zoom out. You'd be shocked where your life could be in 3 years if you just commit to whatever it is. I don't care. It's a new career, right? I did it. First 2 years, I thought I was fucking nuts. Year 3, all right, this actually I got something here. Asked me that in the first 2 years, I would have been like, I don't know about this. This may not work out. Change your body, 3 years. Give it 3 years. Now, you're going to go through different phases and seasons throughout that 3 years. You might be going into a fat loss phase for year 1. Maybe 6 months of the second year, we're just in maintenance and we're just adjusting to this new, lower weight on your frame. Then we start to build muscle maybe for 18 months. Then we trim a little bit of that fat that you build or that you gain when you build muscle. And all of a sudden, 3 years from now, if you're just willing to put that time in, you look completely different, like a brand new human being. And can it happen in less than 3? Yeah, sure. It can happen in 2. It's probably not much less than 2 though, if I'm being honest. Probably not. So that 90 days to shredded, the fuck out of here with that. It's marketing. Some of the best programs in the world market as like get shredded in 90 days. They know what they're doing. They got to get you in the door. Once they get you in the door, the good ones start to talk to you about the long-term process. That it's a never-ending finish line. The bad ones take your money and then you don't have the results. But there are some good ones out there. Last thought. As I mentioned, today is my 48th birthday, December 8th, 2025. Whenever you're listening to this, just need to bookmark that. Hopefully you're listening to it today. Hopefully you're listening to it this week. All right. As of this recording right now, I can confidently say, now some of this is like slight asterisks, right? When I say I'm in the best shape of my life, that's not accurate. When I was playing basketball as a scholarship athlete in college at 21, I was in better shape than I am today, but that's not fair. Relatively speaking, in my post-athletic career life from 20, let's call it 23. I think I ruptured my Achilles at 23 years old, 24 years old. From the moment before I ruptured my Achilles tendon in 2001, in August of 2001, to right now, all right, 24 and change years later, I'm in the best shape of my life. Hands down, not even close. Not even close. Aesthetically, how I look, my strength, and also my athleticism. Still a big time work in progress there. Big time. But I've never been in better shape. All right, so there's my context and asterisk, but I've never been in better shape at 48. My marriage is in the best place it's ever been. Hands down, that's a fact. Honeymoon stage, dating, all that shit. Never been in a better place. Connection-wise, physical attraction, everything. Communication, I'm always a work in progress there. Always. Right? I changed careers 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago. I left a 20-year career where I made a lot of money and but quite frankly, it was on easy mode. Was it a grind? Yeah, of course it was a grind. You commute every day, you go in, you bang your head against the wall, you get frustrated, you make money a lot of days, you lose some money, you get your balls kicked in, like, yeah, all that stuff. But like, relatively speaking, you know what I'm talking about because you're living the same life. It's on easy mode. You've been doing this shit for 20 years. And so I walked away from that and decided to build something that did not exist. I went from several zeros behind my paycheck to a zero, like literally a zero. Now, technically I had a side hustle. That was like, I don't know, $2,500 a month. But I don't need to tell you about how much that covers of your credit card bill. The first couple of days of the month, maybe. It's mine too. And I've built, so far, a pretty cool business. Am I where I want to be? Absolutely not. Do I make as much money as I did at the height of my financial career? I still don't. Do I have a completely different life that I love and I wouldn't trade? 100%. Do I think I'm in a great position to ultimately actually make more financially? Yeah, I do. But I'm still not even there yet, 6 years later. And for a while, I let that fact frustrate me. But if I look at it in its totality, I have now something that I was longing for. I have the ability to create my own schedule. I have the ability to take my health into my own hands on a daily basis. I have the ability to step away from my desk and go walk into my wife's office. As long as she's not on a call or focused on something, give her a kiss and grab her ass. And then she says, get the hell out of here, I'm working. And I say, okay, honey, I'll do that. I'll be back in 45 minutes to do it again. I can see my kids in the morning. Now, I'm not like pump. This isn't like you need to create my life to be happy. This is what I wanted. This is what I wanted. And so I decided to go create it. And I had all the same reservations that you do. How can I do this? I don't know. What else would I do if I don't do this? Like, how can I support my family? Fuck, I even moved across the country to a more expensive place than the metro New York area, the suburbs of New Jersey. And I now live in probably one of the most expensive places, if not the most expensive neighborhood in New Jersey, in the United States. I'm sure there are slightly more expensive neighborhoods. But all things considering, Los Angeles suburbs ain't cheap, fam. It ain't cheap. And so I decided to take on even more financial responsibility at a time where my income went from a lot to nothing. Not highly advised, okay? For everyone thinking about changing careers, I would not do what I did. But if you are unwilling to give yourselves outs, you can achieve whatever it is that you want. I'm creating success in my life at the pace that I want to? No. Do I get frustrated a lot? Yes. Have I wished that I did this a little bit more responsibly, not burn so much money in the beginning? Yes. Do I still get frustrated that I'm not where I should be because of a lot of stupid financial mistakes in my life? Yes. Should I even be working right now? Maybe not. If I was like very savvy and very structured and did all the right things with my money, probably not. 48, probably earned enough that could have then been put to work enough to create even more for myself. But I didn't. I also didn't take care of my body. And at 36 had, a moment where it was broken down and I was 20 pounds overweight and looked like shit and felt like shit and my marriage was shit. And it's like all these choices that I made that I had to take responsibility for. And so wherever you're at right now, please understand that if you just take responsibility for where you're at and own it and make a choice, a decision, your decision has to be greater than your circumstances. You're always going to have circumstances. I am too. My circumstances are not going to change. They're going to continue to find, there's going to be new circumstances that come into my life that cause me to wonder whether or not I can do it. And I'm telling you that you can. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for listening to this. If you found this helpful, share it with one person that you think would also find it helpful. I'll see you guys here for another 52 podcasts at 48 years old and the rest of 2025 next week. Take care.